Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to today's Bhagavad Gita Shloka recitation and Mahabharata session. Let's begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapters 7 to 9, memorization shlokas. Please recite along with me. 7-1. Sri Bhagavanuvacha Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyasyasi Tachrinu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. 7.2 Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyamya sheshataha yajgyatva neha bhuyonyaj gyatavyam avashishyate. I shall now declare unto you this in full, this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. 7.3 Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. 7.4 Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kammano buddhireva cha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtadha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence and false ego, all together these 8 comprise my separated material energies. 7.5 Apareyam mitastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. 7.6 Etadionini bhutani sarvani tyupadharaya aham kritsnasya jagataha prabhavaha pralayastatha. All created beings have their source in these two natures, of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world. Know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. 7.7 Mattaha parataram nanyad kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana iva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. 7.8 Rasohamapsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi suryayoh pranavaha sarva vedeshu shabdah ke paurusham nrishu. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. 710. Bijam mam sarvabhutanam viddhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatamasmi tejas tejasvinamaham. O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. 711. Balam balavatam chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. 712. Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasa tamasaschaye rajasastamashaschaye matta eveti tan vidhi natvaham teshu te mayi. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. 713. त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैर् एभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम्. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. 714. दैवी एषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. 715. Namam dushkritino मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः मायया पहृतज्ञाना आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among the mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. 716. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janah sukritinarjuna arto jigyasur artharthi jnani cha bharatarshabha. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. 717. तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्ता एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानिनोत्यर्थम् अहं स च मम प्रियः. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. 719. बहूनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेवः सर्वमिति स महात्मा सुदुर्लभः. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. 720. कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्तेऽन्यदेवताः तं तं नियमम् आस्थाय प्रकृत्या नियताः स्वया. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. 722. सतया श्रद्धया युक्तस् तस्याराधनमीहते लभते च ततः कामान् मयैवाभिहितान् हितान्. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. 723. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavatyalpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. 724. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyante mama buddhayah param bhavam ajananto mamavyayam anuttamam. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. 725. नाहं प्रकाशः सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजमव्ययम्. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. 726. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. 727. Ichhadvesha dvandvamohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. O scion of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. 728. येषां त्वन्तगतं पापं जनानां पुण्यकर्मणां ते द्वन्द्वमोहनिर्मुक्ता bhajante mam dridhavrataः. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Chapter 8, 8.5. अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन्मुक्त्वा कलेवरं यः प्रयाति स मद्भावं याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. 8.6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. 8.7. तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मर युध्य च मय्यर्पिता मनो बुद्धिर् मामे वैश्यस्य संशयः. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. 8.8. अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन्. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. 8.14. अनन्यचेताः सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. 8:15 Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanaha samsiddhim paramam gataha. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. 8:16 Abrahma bhuvana lokaah punaravartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. 8:17 Sahasrayuga paryantam aharyad brahmano vidhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratravido janaha. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. This is 8:19. Bhutagramah sa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratriagame vashah partha prabhavatyah ragame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. 8:20 Parastasmattu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yah sa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. 8:21 अव्यक्तोऽक्षर इत्युक्तस् तम् आहुः परमां गतिं यं प्राप्य न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम paramam mama. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. 8:28 वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत्पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम्. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. 9.1 Chapter 9 9.1 श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं तु ते गुह्यतमं प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. 9.2 Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. 9.3 अश्रद्धधानाः पुरुषा धर्मस्यास्य परन्तप अप्राप्य मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्युसंसारवर्त्मनि. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me O conqueror of enemies. Therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. 9.4 Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha. By me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. 9.5 न च मत्स्थानि भूतानि पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम् भूतभृन्न च भूतस्थो ममात्मा भूतभावनः. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. 9.10 मयाध्यक्षेण प्रकृतिः सूयते सचराचरं हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगद्विपरिवर्तते. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. 9.11 अवजानन्ति मां मूढा मानुषीं तनुमाश्रितं परं भावम् अजानन्तो मम भूता महेश्वरम्. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. 9.12 मोघाशामोघकर्माणो मोघज्ञानाविचेतसः राक्षसीम् आसुरीं चैव प्रकृतिं मोहिनीं श्रिताः. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. 9.13 महात्मानस्तु मां पार्था दैवीं प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः भजन्त्यनन्यमनसो ज्ञात्वा भूतादिमव्ययम्. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. 9.14 सततं कीर्तयन्तो मां यतन्तश्च दृढव्रताः नमस्यन्तश्च मां भक्त्या नित्ययुक्ता उपासते. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. 9.17 पिताहमस्य जगतो माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यं पवित्रमोङ्कारा ऋक्सामा यजुरेव च. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rik, the Sama, and the Yajur Vedas. 921 एतं भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालं क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रयी धर्ममनुप्रपन्ना गतागतं कामकामा लभन्ते. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. 922 अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो मां ये जना पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम्. But those who worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. 923 येऽप्यन्यदेवता भक्ता यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः tepi mameva kaunteya yajantya vidhipurvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. 924. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhurev cha na tu mam abhijananti tatvena taschavantite. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not know, do not recognize my true transcendental nature, fall down. 925. Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pitrivrataha, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti madhyajinopi mam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. 926. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tad aham bhaktipahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. 927. Yat karoshi yad ashnasi yad juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. 929. Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshyosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. 930. Apichet suduracharo bhajate mamananyabhak sadhureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito hi saha. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. 931. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. 932. Mam hi parthavyapashritya yepi syuh papayonayaha striyo vaishyastatha shudras tepi yanti param gatim. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, and Shudras, can attain the supreme destination. 933. Kim punar brahmana punya bhakta rajarshayas anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam. How much more this is so of the righteous brahmanas, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. 934. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So now we will begin reading Srimad. We will read Mahabharata. Yes, Srimad Mahabharata. So, what did we read yesterday in Mahabharata? Madhava is raising a hand. Go ahead.
The Pandavas, they came back to Hastinapur and they asked for half of the kingdom. So
They asked? Did they ask?
No, they asked for the kingdom, I think. Wait, I forget. Dhritarashtra gave them half of the kingdom because Khāṇḍava first, and they also met Narad Muni, and they made the rule that one of the Pandavas would say a certain amount of time with Draupadi.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Anything you remember from yesterday's reading? Isha.
After Arjun won Draupadi ji, after that they came back, and then Arjun told Kunti ji that they had gotten some really nice arms, and also that they got a gem. And then, without looking, Kunti ji said that share it amongst yourselves. And then later she realized that he was talking about Draupadi ji, and then she was very scared because it was going against her religious principles, because she would value truth a lot, but at the same time they couldn't share Draupadi ji. So then they decided that all 5 of them will marry her. And also after that, Krishna Balaram visited them.
Yes. Okay. Any other points? No? Okay. So, so Isha is sharing the points, whatever we read yesterday. So we saw first how Arjun won the hand of Draupadi, and then there was a fight, and then Arjun and Bhimsen came out victorious. They took Draupadi with them to where they were residing at the potter's house, and then Draupadi found out that they were actually the Pandavas. She was very happy. As Isha said, Arjun announced that they got a very valuable gem, and Kunti said, you share it amongst yourselves. And then when she actually looked, it was Draupadi. She was shocked because she had never uttered a lie, and it was not possible that she could tell a lie. So because she said they all should share her, if that didn't materialize, then she would become a liar, right? She said share it, and they could not share it, so her words would be proved false. So that would spoil her religious principles. So therefore, she was concerned. She asked Yudhishthir Maharaj. Yudhishthir Maharaj thought about it, and he said, all 5 of us will marry. And when he said that, all the Pandavas, they started looking at Draupadi, and they saw that she was also returning their glances. That means she was also agreeable. Then Krishna Balaram came, introduced themselves, and then they were all very happy. And then they didn't stay for too long for fear of the Pandavas being recognized, so they left. But meanwhile, Drishtadyumna, the brother of Draupadi, was also following. So he saw the whole thing from a distance. He was watching that Krishna Balaram came. He thought, who are these people? And then he went closer, and he was looking through the window, and he saw how Kunti was, explaining to Draupadi about the prasadam. Half the quantity should be given to Bhimsen, like that. And he saw his sister was very happy. And also, when they went to bed, he saw that these 5 brothers were talking about war and weapons. So he thought, like, this is enough. I know there are no ordinary Brahmins or, Shudras, Vaishyas. They're certainly Kshatriyas. And even in that, they are certainly Pandavas. So he went back and informed Drupada about this. Drupada was meanwhile quite worried. What, I don't even know who they are, and I just sent my daughter away, not even knowing what their lineage is, who they are. Who was that person who actually won the challenge? Could it be Arjun, or was it just by fluke, right? By chance that he won? He shot the target. And is it a Vaishya or Shudra? Oh my God! Then my whole family, dynasty. The name of my dynasty is spoiled because my daughter is married to a lowborn. He had so many concerns. But when Arjun came back, when Drishtadyumna came back and he reported whatever he saw and his opinion that they are actually Pandavas, Drupada was very happy. He sent his priest to the Pandavas and said, we would like to know your lineage, because the king's daughter is given to you. So Yudhishthir Maharaj said, no, the king arranged for a challenge and we won the challenge. So now there is no need for us to reveal anything else about the lineage. We have fulfilled the condition. So then he said, of course, tell the king not to worry, that very soon we will reveal to him. But he should not worry that some lowborn has actually, taken his daughter. No lowborn can actually accomplish such a task. Meanwhile, even before the priest left, Drupad Maharaj sent 2 chariots to the Pandavas, asking them to come for a feast. And there, it was also a test. He arranged so many tables against the walls. On one table were paraphernalia for brahmanas, on one were the paraphernalia for kshatriyas, on one vaishyas, on one shudras. And then a very nice royal feast was arranged, fit for the kings. And then when the Pandavas came, still dressed like Brahmins in their deer skins, they came and in a very majestic way, in a royal fashion, they sat down and they ate all the prasadam that was served. And then they went straight to the table that had all weapons. So it was obvious to Drupad Maharaj that they are Kshatriyas and even, right, Pandavas. So he went and asked Yudhishthir Maharaj to please reveal who they were. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj revealed, I am Yudhishthir, and the person who won the contest, the challenge, that is Arjun. So it was Arjun who won the hand of Draupadi. He was so overjoyed. He had tears in his eyes in ecstasy, and he said, let's arrange for the wedding whenever we should do. And then Arjun said, how can I marry in the presence of my... Actually, Arjun said this in the house itself. When Yudhishthir Maharaj said, Arjun, you should marry, Arjun said, how can I marry? You are the older brother. First, you should marry. So here also, when Drupad Maharaj said, let's arrange your wedding with Arjun, my daughter's wedding with Arjun, Yudhishthir Maharaj said, but that's not the system. The older brother has to get married first. So then Drupad Maharaj, he didn't care who his daughter married to. He said, either Yudhishthir Maharaj, you marry, or any of your brothers, whoever you want to marry my daughter, let them marry. And Yudhishthir Maharaj said, all 5 of us will marry. He was shocked. What is this? Right? I've never heard that one woman can marry more than one husband. A man can have more than one wife, but a woman having more than one husband, how can, this is sinful. How is it possible? Then Yudhishthir Maharaj gave some examples from scriptures, how the Prachetas were 10 brothers and they married one wife, like that. And another, rishi, one lady married 7 rishis, like that. It is possible under exceptional conditions. It is possible, but still, and also he said, my mother, she gave this order that all 5 of us should share. And when I think about it, I don't feel that it is sinful. And I've never committed any sinful act in my life. I've never lied. I've always adhered to dharma, and I don't feel that it is sinful. Therefore, I think it is good that we all should marry. But still, this was not convincing enough for Drupad Maharaj. He said, let's consult with the elders, let's consult with the Kunti Devi, so on and so on. Yudhishthir Maharaj said, yes, go ahead. And then meanwhile, Vyasdev arrived there. And Vyasdev, greeted everyone, the Pandavas. And then he said, he asked Drupad Maharaj, right? So how is everything? And then, no, he congratulated that the Pandavas won. So then Drupad Maharaj said, this is the problem. I'm facing this problem. So how is it possible? And then he asked Yudhishthir Maharaj, what is his opinion? He said, I have no problem. Then he took Drupad Maharaj in private to another room. Vyasdev took Drupad Maharaj and explained to him that this Draupadi, in a previous life, she was the daughter of a rishi and she had performed tapasya to please Lord Shiva and prayed to him for a husband. She prayed 5 times. So the Lord Shiva blessed her that you will get 5 husbands. This is the same Draupadi. And besides, do you know who these Pandavas are? They're all Indras from their past life. And in different millennia, they have been Indras. And then by the mercy of Vyasdev, Drupad Maharaj could see in a vision the identities of the Pandavas as demigods, as Indras, in their golden armors and crowns, like that, in their brilliance. And then he was completely satisfied and convinced. So he came out and he said, yes, 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 all 5 of you can marry, like that. And then, yes, so then the marriage was performed one after another. First Yudhishthir married, and then also by the power of Vyasdev, Draupadi retained her virginity even after she married one person. The next day when she married the other brother, she was again virgin, and again she was married. Like this, 5 days she married 5 of them. And then they started staying in Drupad Maharaj's house, and Drupad Maharaj was very happy. Meanwhile, all the kings who came to attend the Swayamvara, they attended the whole ceremony, right? The Swayamvara, and then the Pandavas, they found out. And of course, Krishna went and he sent gifts for very costly gifts for the Pandavas from where was he at that time? Dwaraka. And then all the other kings, they started going back to their kingdoms and marveling at, oh, the Pandavas are still alive. And Duryodhana is also going back, and he's very unhappy. The Pandavas are surviving. How did they escape the house of fire? That Purojan, it's good that he got burnt, right? He didn't do his job properly. So he went back. And then Vidur also got news about this. And then Vidur came and told Dhritarashtra Maharaj, congratulations, our Kurus, they have won, right? So Duryodhana had also gone. So Yudhishthira Maharaj knew that. I mean, Dhritarashtra Maharaj knew that. So when Vidur found out that the Pandavas have actually won the hand of Draupadi, and he came and informed Dhritarashtra. Of course, Dhritarashtra was not happy, but externally he expressed his joy. At first he thought it was Duryodhana who won the hand of Draupadi, and he immediately ordered, make ornaments for Draupadi and this and that. He was ecstatic. And then Vidur said, no, it's not Duryodhana, it's the Pandavas, they're still living. And externally he pretended to be happy, and he said, oh, it's so nice, and so on and so forth. But after Vidur left, he was thinking what to do now. So then they had returned, right? Duryodhana and they had also returned. So then they were very unhappy. How can you be happy knowing that the Pandavas are surviving and they won? Now we are in a very difficult situation. They became more powerful. They became allies with Drupada. We should try to destroy them as soon as possible. And Dhritarashtra said, I agree with you, but I could not reveal, I couldn't let Vidur know what is in my heart. That's why I said like that. Anyway, so then Karna and Duryodhan said their ideas, how they will try to, uh, dissuade Draupadi's chastity, right, towards the Pandavas, make them fight amongst themselves for Draupadi, or make Draupadi not like the Pandavas, so many things. And they were saying, by this we will, we'll have them fight with each other and, kill, so on and so forth. So, okay, Dhritarashtra heard this and he said, okay, let's also listen to what the elders say. Bhishma, Drona, Vidura, they were invited, and they came and they said, Bhishma said immediately, you should invite them, first of all, give them half the kingdom. Because, do you know what the people are talking? That it was you who caused the Pandavas, to burn in the house of you. It was set up, the whole thing was set up by you. You didn't like the Pandavas, therefore you sent them there and you plotted to kill them by burning them alive. This is what the people are talking. Your name is spoiled. Now, if you want to correct that situation, you send some, a very respectable person, right, to Drupad Maharaj, invite the Pandavas, express your joy that the Pandavas have actually won the hand of Draupadi, and When they come back, you give them half the kingdom. This is the only way you can correct the situation. Dronacharya also said in the same lines. And then Vidur was seeing that Dhritarashtra still he had doubts, right? Because he was going back and forth between what Duryodhan said and what Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya are saying. So then Vidur gave his opinion. He also felt the same way like Bhishma Dev. And then finally he said, okay, Vidur, you go. You go and bring the Pandavas. Take gifts and go and bring. That's how Vidur went there. And yeah, he brings all the Pandavas along with Draupadi. Krishna also came, followed them, and they all came to Hastinapur. And the people were so joyous because the last thing they heard about the Pandavas was that they were burned in the lakh house. Just before going to Varanavat, they had seen them. And then they thought they were dead. Now, when they actually saw them, thousands and thousands of the citizens crowded to see the Pandavas, and the Pandavas also seeing their hometown, right, Hastinapur, and their citizens. They had tears in their eyes. They were very happy, blessing all the people. Dhritarashtra and Bhishma had come onto the road to receive the Pandavas like that. And then, yeah, so it was decided that half Yudhishthir should get half the kingdom. So Dhritarashtra announced, my dear Yudhishthir, you take Khāṇḍava. When Krishna heard that, Krishna was also sitting. Khāṇḍava is it's like a cursed land. There is no nobody living there. There is no cities, nothing. You cannot grow any food there like that. But it's a vast piece of land, half of the kingdom. But it was not at all prosperous. But Yudhishthir Maharaj accepted it silently and they went away. Vyasdev also came. So Vyasdev went with the Pandavas. Krishna also went. They went to Khandava. And then Vyasdev found a spot where they should erect their city. And then he performed some Vedic rituals there. And Lord Krishna ordered Indra to make the whole place once again very fertile. And he ordered also Vishwakarma to build the city of Indraprastha. So very soon it was built, very nice palatial buildings, gardens, lakes, everything. It was very, very beautiful. And also it was guarded by these soldiers. And then soon people started coming, brahmanas started coming, merchants, everyone started coming, and the whole place was filled up. And it was ruled by Yudhishthir Maharaj, who treated the citizens like his own children. Everybody was very happy. So this is what is happening. Meanwhile, one day Narad Muni came to Indraprastha. And of course, Krishna also. Krishna went and he came back again. So um, once Narad Muni came, and then he instructed the five brothers that Draupadi came first. He blessed her, and she went back to her quarters. Then he instructed the five brothers, narrating one history that there were two brothers, demons, asuras, Sunda and Upasunda, and how they ended up killing each other. They were so powerful, so loving to each other, but uh, and then they performed so many austerities, they got benedictions that nobody would be able to kill them. Only each of them could be killed by the other brother. Otherwise, no one in the world could kill them. So they became so proud that they started terrorizing the whole universe. Then Lord Brahma thought there has to be a solution to this. So he created one Apsara called Tilottama and sent her to them. And both of them were intoxicated. And when they saw her, they just, they desired her. And both of them wanted her to himself. That means even though they were like two bodies and one person, when it came to a woman, they started fighting. And then they ended up killing each other. So the moral of the story that Narad Muni was trying to teach the Pandavas is all five of you have one wife. Yes, all five of you are very close to each other. You never fight. But when it comes to a woman, anything is possible. Therefore, you should have a very strict system in place about associating with Draupadi. So like that. And after saying this, right in the presence of Narad Muni, Yudhishthir Maharaj made a plan that when they will have a certain time, right? This much time each person will be spending with Draupadi. And whenever one Pandava is with Draupadi, the others cannot go in their presence. If they happen to go when one Pandava is alone with Draupadi, then there is a punishment. For 1 year, they have to leave the kingdom, and also they cannot associate with Draupadi for 1 year. That was the punishment. That's where we ended. So let's continue now. Chapter 13, Arjun's pilgrimage. It was more than a year since Narada Rishi's visit. 1 year had passed since Narad Muni visited. The Pandavas' power and influence had increased, and they had brought many other kings under their sway. They ruled with one aim, to keep the people on a path of piety and truth. By their own example, they showed how happiness follows a life of virtue. In everything they did, they accepted the guidance of spiritually advanced Brahmins. Indraprastha flourished and became more than the equal of Hastinapur in the world's eyes. So that which was Khāṇḍava, which was a wasteland, now it became even more prosperous than Hastinapur in the eyes of the whole world. Due to his unswerving adherence to virtue, Yudhishthir became known as Dharmaraj, the king of religion. Draupadi pleased her 5 husbands with her feminine graces and expert attentions. According to their agreement, each of the brothers was allotted time in which to be alone with her. One day it so happened that while Draupadi was alone with Yudhishthir, a Brahman came to the Pandavas' palace. Standing by the gate, he cried out, "O king, a Brahman's wealth is being robbed by wicked and despicable men. Alas, how can it be that in the kingdom of the virtuous Pandavas, the Brahmins are not protected? A king who takes his taxes but fails to protect the people is considered the most sinful of men. O heroes, take me by the hand and deliver me from this burning anguish." What's the problem? This Brahmana's property is robbed by some people. In anger and grief, the Brahman repeatedly cried out. Arjun heard his cries and called down, "Do not fear." He went quickly to fetch his weapons in order to punish the thieves, but discovered that Yudhishthir was alone with Draupadi in the room which held the weapons chest. Arjun hesitated. How could he intrude upon his elder brother, especially as they had made their agreement? But here was an afflicted Brahman. If he did not protect him, then Yudhishthir's fame would perish, and he would be tainted by sin. Arjun could not stand by and watch his brother be accused of irreligion. He had to get the weapons, even though it meant he would be exiled to the forest. He felt that even if he died in the forest, it would be preferable to being covered by sin. Arjun resolved to enter the chamber and gather his weapons. He knocked on the door and walked in. Looking straight ahead of him, he was not looking at anyone. Looking straight ahead of him, he strode quickly toward the weapons. Yudhishthir smiled to see his younger brother. He knew Arjun must have an important reason for entering. Arjun then explained the situation, took his bow, and rushed out of the palace. Taking the Brahman and mounting his chariot, he pursued the robbers. When he saw them in the distance, Arjun released infallible arrows, striking down the thieves as they made off with the Brahman's cows. So these thieves had stolen the Brahman's cows. Having dealt swift justice to the robbers, Arjun restored the property to the grateful Brahman and returned to the city. Yudhishthir greeted his brother warmly as he entered the palace. Along with his other brothers, he applauded Arjun for saving the Brahman. Arjun bowed before Yudhishthir and said, O Lord, please give me permission to observe the vow as we have agreed. I shall leave for the forest at once. Yudhishthir's heart was pierced by grief when he heard Arjun's statement. He immediately replied, "Why should you go, O sinless one? If I am your authority, then heed my words now. I was not in the least disturbed by your entering the room. There is no need for you to leave for the forest." Yudhishthir looked tearfully at his handsome, curly-haired brother. How could he face separation from this virtuous and gentle soul? He explained to Arjun that the scripture sanctioned a younger brother entering a room where his elder brother sat with his wife. It was only when the elder brother intruded upon the younger that it was condemned. Arjun had entered the room only in pursuance of duty and in service to Yudhishthir. But Arjun was adamant. "My lord, I have heard from you that virtue must be practiced without hesitation or quibble. I shall not waver from truth. Truth is my weapon and virtue. Truth is my weapon and virtue my strength. Truth is my weapon and virtue my strength. Grant me permission to leave, and I shall proceed to the forest today." Despite the other Pandavas' repeated pleas, Arjun could not be swayed. Finally, Yudhishthir relented and gave his permission. Although it would be painful to think of his younger brother in exile for so long, it must somehow be the arrangement of providence. Surely the Lord had some inscrutable purpose which would ultimately prove to their benefit. He watched sadly as Arjun left the city, accompanied by Brahmins chanting sacred hymns and by servants carrying wealth for him to distribute as charity while he traveled. The young prince went on foot toward the north. He had decided to first follow the Ganges course toward the Himalayas, then proceed eastward to the coast. Following the coastline in a great circle, he would finally return to Indraprastha. Indraprastha is in Delhi, near Delhi, right? New Delhi and Old Delhi. Arjun traveled at a leisurely pace. He saw charming woodlands, lakes, and gardens. There were countless hermitages along the banks of the Ganges where sages lived, and each evening Arjun would stop and recite prayers in their company. He would also listen as the sages narrated tales from the ancient scriptures about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord in his many incarnations. Arjun often thought of his cousin and dear friend Krishna as he walked. He hoped to visit him toward the end of his exile. The Pandava listened as the sages described how Krishna was the unborn, original personality of Godhead, appearing on earth to destroy demonic men and to establish the eternal religion, pure love of God. As he traveled, Arjun also performed fire sacrifices to please Vishnu and the gods. One evening, just as the Brahmins were kindling the sacred fire, Arjun entered the Ganges in order to bathe. He was just about to he was just about to then leave the river. Okay, he was just about to leave the river when he suddenly felt himself being drawn underwater by an unseen force. Despite his efforts to free himself, he was dragged deeply into the river. He then found himself mystically transported to a celestial palace. Arjun looked around and saw a sacred fire burning in the room he had entered. The prince immediately sat before the fire and offered libations of ghee into the flames, fearlessly reciting the mantras. Just as Arjun was completing his evening rituals in that strange place, a beautiful girl entered the room. She glanced coyly at Arjun and smiled. He recognized her at once to be a maiden belonging to the celestial Naga race. Arjun understood at once what had happened. The Nagas have the power to transfer humans to their own heavenly dimension of existence. Obviously, this girl had been attracted to him and had drawn him down to her abode. He smiled back and said, "O beautiful maiden, you have been bold indeed. Who are you, and where is this divine region?" The girl replied that she was the daughter of a Naga king named Kauravya. Her name was Ulupi. When you entered the river for your bath, I was moving through the waters in my ethereal form. I was struck by Cupid's arrow as soon as I saw your godlike form. O descendant of Kuru, I am yet unmarried. Therefore accept me as your wife. Give yourself up to me and gratify me today. Arjun said that he was bound by a vow of celibacy for 1 year. He could not therefore accept her as his wife. Still, as she was a Naga, he knew she must have already known this by her celestial intelligence. She would not have asked him to marry her if her request did not somehow conform to the codes of virtue. Indeed, the scriptures enjoined that a Kshatriya should never refuse a maiden who supplicated herself to him. Arjun asked her how he could satisfy her desire while at the same time maintain his truthfulness. Ulupi replied, "I know of your vow, O hero. You and your brothers made a rule in regard to Draupadi. This is well known to the gods. But that rule pertained only to your wife. It is her with whom you must not consort for the next year. There will be no sin in accepting another woman." Filled with desire for the powerful Pandava hero, Ulupi beseeched him to accept her. She explained that such an act would be his highest duty under the present circumstances. The Naga princess knew that Arjun would act only when impelled by virtuous motives. She told him that if he did not take her as his wife, she would destroy herself. Thus he would be saving her life by accepting her. That was certainly a greater virtue than observing celibacy. Even if his piety suffered a slight loss by his going with her, he would gain greater merits by having saved the life of a helpless woman who had approached him for shelter. So, yesterday Isha had asked a question about Hidimbi, same condition, right? So, it was a special circumstance. It was not like an arranged marriage. So, it was like to save that person's life, like that. Arjun thought carefully. He decided that the Naga maiden was speaking the truth and that he would not be acting wrongly to accept her as his wife. He smiled and nodded in assent. Ulupi quickly fetched 2 celestial garlands, which she and Arjun duly exchanged to signify their acceptance of one another. Having sealed their union according to scriptural injunctions, Arjun then spent the night with her in Kauravya's palace. Ulupi waited upon him and offered him every kind of celestial food and drink. They then laid together on a golden bed in the heavenly mansion and conceived a child. In the morning, Arjun rose just before sunrise. Ulupi brought him back through the Ganges to the place where he had bathed the night before. Before leaving him, Ulupi blessed Arjun. "You shall be invincible in water. Every aquatic creature will be vanquished by you in a fight." Normally, humans cannot, right? But now, because of Ulupi's blessing, Arjun can defeat any aquatic creature when he is in water. After telling Arjun that she would return to him later when he was back in his own kingdom, Ulupi vanished into the Ganges waters, leaving Arjun to be greeted by his followers. Remember, Arjun went with Brahmins and also servants carrying wealth to be distributed. So they saw Arjun come back in the morning. He disappeared in the evening and he came back in the morning. So he was greeted by them. The ascetic Brahmins had seen by their own divine sight how the prince had been taken to the region of the Nagas. They met him as he returned and offered him their blessings. Arjun related to them everything that had happened. The party continued on to the Himalayas and soon arrived at the Bhrigu mountain, where the famous Vashishta Rishi had once had his hermitage. Many Brahmins lived on that hill. Where is this? Bhrigu mountain. Yeah. Many Brahmins lived on that hill, and Arjun distributed much charity to them. After bathing in a sacred lake on the Bhrigu mountain, he walked on, visiting numerous other holy sites. Arjun went toward the east, gradually descending from the Himalayan range. He reached the forest of Naimisharanya, said by the sages to be the very hub of the universe, where the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Suta Goswami to Shaunaka Adi Rishis. So Arjun went there. Of course, that happened afterwards, but that's the same place. From there, he crossed over the rivers Nanda, Upananda, and the famous Kaushika, where the great Rishi Vishwamitra had performed asceticism for thousands of years in ancient days. Desiring to increase his piety, Arjun traveled from one pilgrimage site to another along with his retinue. He performed many sacrificial ceremonies and gave away much wealth. When he reached the border of the kingdom of Kalinga on the eastern coast, he bade farewell to most of his followers and entered the kingdom with only a few attendants. Arjun journeyed through forests, woodlands, and numerous towns and villages. He passed the great Mount Mahendra and arrived finally in Manipur, where he visited King Chitravahana in his city of Manalur. The king had an attractive daughter named Citrangada. Arjun saw her one day in the palace gardens and was struck with desire. He approached the king and asked for his daughter's hand in marriage. Chitravahana replied that he would be delighted to see his daughter wed an illustrious heir of the Kuru race. Arjun was famous throughout the world as a hero without equal. But the king had one condition. Years ago, his ancestors had prayed to Shiva for a child. The deity had granted their request, saying, "You shall have a child, and from now on, all of your descendants will have a child, but one child only to continue your race." That means either a girl or a boy, there will be only one child. Chitravahana had only a daughter. If Arjun begot a son with his daughter, he must leave the boy to become the next king of Manipur. Arjun happily accepted the condition and was married to the princess with all due ceremony. He remained in the city for 3 months. When he saw that Chitrangada had conceived, he took his leave from her and the king, setting out again on his travels. Before leaving, he promised Chitrangada that he would return and bring her to his home in Indraprastha. Arjun then made his way south along the coast. So he went to the Himalayas, he went east, and now he's coming south. When he reached the southern coast, he found a large community of rishis. He asked them to point out the local pilgrimage sites, and the rishis informed him that there were 5 sacred lakes in that region, which could not be approached because they were infested with crocodiles. These lakes could confer great merits upon anyone who bathed in them. But as soon as a man entered the water, he would be carried away by one of the powerful reptiles. Arjun saw an opportunity to serve the ascetics. He remembered his boon from Ulupi, going to the lake named Agastya after the famous rishi who had once lived there. He dived into the water. Arjun's leg was immediately seized by a great crocodile. Feeling the divine strength conferred by Ulupi, he grasped hold of the animal and pulled it out of the water. Arjun dashed the creature onto the shore. It suddenly became limp, and a beautiful celestial maiden came out of its body. Seeing the wonderful sight, Arjun asked, "Who are you, O beautiful one? Why have you committed such sins in this lake, carrying away holy ascetics?" The maiden stood before Arjun with folded palms. "O mighty hero, I am the Apsara named Varga, ever beloved of Kuvera." Varga explained that she had once been going with 4 of her friends to see Kuvera. As they traveled through a heavenly woodland region, they saw a Brahman meditating in a lonely place. He was extremely handsome, and he lit up the woods with his bodily luster. The 5 Apsaras playfully tried to disturb his meditation. They danced and sang before him, trying to tempt him away from his ascetic practices. Although unmoved by lust, The Brahman was angered by their behavior. He then cursed them. As you attack me now without compunction, you five shall become crocodiles whose business is attacking others. The maidens at once came to their senses. Showing contrition, they begged the Brahman for mercy. He relented and told them that they would soon be delivered from their crocodile bodies by a powerful man. At that moment, the great sage Narada Rishi arrived there and told them to enter the five sacred lakes on Bharat's south coast. Soon, Arjun would come and release them from their bondage. Varga bowed before the Pandava and thanked him for delivering her. She then asked him to save her four friends who lived in each of the four other lakes. Arjun smiled and went quickly to each holy lake. He pulled out all the other crocodiles, and each time he watched as a maiden of shining beauty came out of the fierce reptilian body. The five Apsaras came together and, after offering Arjun their respects, rose up to the heavens. Having made the lakes safe again, Arjun took his leave from the rishis and proceeded on his journey. So Arjun is in the south now. Arjun traveled up Bharat's western coast. So he went to the Himalayas, went to the east, came south, and now he's going west. Western coast until he arrived at Prabhasa. Prabhasa is the place where Krishna disappeared, and the whole Yadus also. In the sea near Prabhasa, Krishna had constructed a city called Dwaraka. Arjun could see the splendid fortress city from a distance, shining like the sun on the horizon. It could only be reached by passing along a heavily guarded bridge. When he reached the bridge, Arjun sent word of his arrival to Krishna, who immediately came out of the city to see his dear friend. They embraced with joy. News of Arjun's exile from Indraprastha had already reached Dwaraka, and Krishna had been expecting him to arrive before the year was up. He knew that Arjun was interested in gaining the hand of his sister Subhadra. Arjun had heard much about the princess from Gada, Krishna's cousin, who had studied under Drona along with the Pandavas. Gada had described her as being incomparably beautiful and endowed with every womanly qualification. Just by hearing the descriptions, Arjun's heart had become attracted. He had resolved even then to somehow win her as his wife, and that would forge an alliance between the Pandavas and their beloved Lord Krishna. So Subhadra Maharani, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, same Subhadra, Arjun's wife. Arjun told Krishna about his travels to the holy places, and the Vrishni hero replied, who? Krishna. Arjun told Krishna about his travels to the holy places, and the Vrishni hero replied, "This is all good. Your piety and virtue are ever increasing." The Pandava prince turned quickly to the subject of Subhadra. He asked Krishna how she might be won. Krishna smiled. "This princess is worthy of you in every way, O tiger among men. But who knows what would be her decision at a Swayamvar? For a hero, the surest way to win a maiden is to carry her away by force. This is always the way of the powerful, and it is sanctioned by Holy Scripture." Krishna added that her brother Balarama was intent on seeing her married to Duryodhan, even though no one else in Dwaraka was very keen on this suggestion. Krishna especially did not like the idea. He would much prefer Arjun to take his sister's hand. But Balaram was the city father and Krishna's elder brother, and Krishna did not want to go against his wishes. He told Arjun to be patient. They would devise a plan. In the meanwhile, they could spend some time together. Arjun still had 4 months remaining of his exile. He could spend it at Dwaraka. Krishna suggested that Arjun keep his identity concealed. If he entered the city openly, he would not get a chance to see Subhadra. She lived in Balaram's palace and was never seen in public. Her first appearance would be at her marriage. If Arjun went into the city dressed as a renunciant, however, Okay, if Arjun went into the city dressed as a renunciant, however, Balaram would doubtlessly invite him for meals. Krishna knew that his elder brother was fond of entertaining ascetics and sages, and also that he always arranged for Subhadra to serve them so that she might be blessed and increase her virtue. Arjun should therefore disguise himself as a renunciant, a member of the sannyas order. No one would recognize him if he matted his hair and kept his beard, like he did in Ekachakra, right? Even in the Swayamvar. No one would recognize him if he matted his hair and kept his beard, especially when he was dressed in the saffron robes of a sannyasi. Then he would live in Dwaraka during the coming months and await an opportunity to win the beautiful Subhadra. The rainy season was just upon them, and it was customary for wandering ascetics to stay in cities till the rains had passed. Krishna went back into his city, and Arjun waited for a few more days outside before entering. Krishna's plan had sounded good. The Pandava wanted a chance to see Subhadra, and also for her to see him. Pious, he did not want to steal her against her desire. If she were not attracted to him, he would leave her in peace. He tied his hair in a knot above his head and put on the dress of a renunciant. Taking up the triple rodded staff, Tridanda, taking up the triple rodded staff traditionally carried by Vaishnava sannyasis, those worshippers of Vishnu in the renounced order, Arjun entered Dwaraka. So you can picture Arjun in a sannyasi dress with a tridanda entering into Dwaraka. The unsuspecting gatekeepers allowed the ascetic to pass, folding their palms in respect as he walked by. Arjun made his way along the huge golden bridge that spanned the ocean to the city and which was encrusted with precious stones. At intervals, the bridge opened out onto spacious platforms where well armed soldiers stood guard. None of them recognized Arjun as he passed. When Arjun reached the city, he was stunned by its opulence. Can you imagine? Arjun is coming from Indraprastha and he is stunned by the opulence of Dwaraka. Symmetrically arranged around the city center were 16,000 white palaces, one for each of Krishna's 16,000 queens. Each palace was bedecked with gold and jewels, and each rivaled the celestial Mount Meru in its size and opulence. Magnificent temples rose up on all sides, and the sounds of sacred chants could be heard everywhere. Beautiful music filled the air, and billows of fragrant incense wafted on the breeze. Shining chariots and great elephants moved here and there. Attractively dressed citizens strolled about the wide avenues, which were inlaid with priceless emeralds. The avenues were inlaid with priceless emeralds and interspersed with gardens stocked with celestial flowers. In the midst of the delightful gardens, jeweled fountains stood in lotus filled lakes. Trees bearing blossoms of every color stood along the roadsides. All around the city, a massive fortified wall, a full 100 miles long, rose up from the sea. This is all on the sea. Arjun gazed about in wonder as he made his way to the Brahman's quarter of the city, because he's dressed as a sannyasi. He's going towards the Brahman's quarter. Krishna had arranged that his friend be given a large house for his residence. He told him that he would inform Balaram of the arrival of a Vaishnava sannyasi and that Arjun could expect to soon be invited to Balaram's palace where he would see Subhadra. Arjun felt as if he had ascended to Indra's abode in the heavenly planets. The gods were even seen frequenting Dwaraka, and it seemed as if its residents were celebrating a never-ending festival. As Krishna had expected, Balaram arranged for Arjun to be brought to his palace and offered varieties of delicious food. He had his sister Subhadra serve the sannyasi so that she might receive his blessings. The princess stole Arjun's mind away. She was everything he had heard she was. Subhadra was as beautiful as Vishnu's divine consort Lakshmi, with her blue silk garments, gold earrings and ornaments, and long curling black hair. She could capture the hearts even of the celestials. She moved about with grace and poise as she served the ascetic. Arjun tried not to stare at her as he accepted the golden dishes she placed before him. But the princess caught his glance and saw the sparkle in his eyes. She looked more carefully at the sannyasi. He did not resemble the other ascetics Balaram had brought to the house. This ascetic looked more like a prince. Beneath his thin cotton cloth, Subhadra could see his broad and powerful shoulders. As he accepted the dishes she offered, she noticed his long, well muscled arms, which resembled a pair of 5 hooded serpents. She could see that behind his beard, the young sannyasi was extremely handsome. His dark eyes pierced hers, and she felt her heart move. It was obvious that he desired her. Perhaps he was looking for a bride. She knew that Balaram was trying to arrange her marriage to Duryodhan, but the young sage seemed a better prospect than that conceited Kuru prince. Subhadra wondered who this ascetic might be. Over the coming weeks, Balaram invited Arjun to his palace on numerous occasions. Each time Subhadra served him, and their attraction for one another grew. Each time Subhadra served him, and their attraction for one another grew. One day, in confidence, Krishna spoke with his sister on the subject of her marriage. She told him of her feelings for the strange sannyasi, and Krishna smiled. He asked her how she felt about Duryodhan. The princess's features twisted disdainfully. Then Krishna mentioned Arjun's name, telling her that the Pandava was desirous of becoming her husband. Indeed, he had come to Dwaraka to seek her hand. Subhadra looked at him intently. Suddenly she realized what he was saying. The handsome ascetic was Arjun. Why had she not guessed? The so-called sannyasi, who walked like a powerful lion and spoke with a voice resembling a thundercloud, could only be a great ruler. Subhadra was suddenly excited. If only she could become the wife of that famous Kuru hero. But Krishna cautioned her to remain quiet about his identity. If Balaram learned the truth, there would be trouble. She should be patient. Arjun would surely find a way to marry her. It was almost the end of the monsoon season. Balaram invited the sannyasi to his palace for a final visit. Again, Subhadra served him. By glances and smiles, she made her feelings clear to the Pandava. Arjun's heart pounded. He could hardly eat. He prayed that he would soon get a chance to take the princess as his bride. When the meal was over, Balaram gave gold and jewels to the sannyasi and sent him home. Arjun left with his mind in turmoil. He had to somehow gain Subhadra's hand. During the last weeks of the rainy season, his mind remained fixed on the princess. Finally, the rains ended, and it was time for Arjun to leave Dwaraka. Krishna came to see him and told him that there would be a festival on the Raivataka hill, which skirted the mainland coastline around Dwaraka. All of the Yadus would attend. The beautiful Subhadra would also be there. Krishna suggested that this might be the time for which Arjun had been waiting. Arjun's eyes lit up as Krishna, sitting next to him on the couch, explained his plan. O best of men, I do not see any way you can obtain Subhadra other than by kidnapping her from the midst of her friends and relatives. The festival will provide an opportunity for you, as the powerful heroes of the Yadu dynasty will be at ease and not expecting trouble. The festival was to be held in a few days, and Krishna arranged for swift messengers to ride to nearby Indraprastha. Arjun wanted to obtain Yudhishthir's permission before snatching away Subhadra. Such an act would likely arouse the anger of the mighty Balaram and might even precipitate a fight between the Pandavas and the Yadus. But Krishna told him not to fear. He would pacify Balaram when the time came. I will convince my irascible brother of the propriety and excellence of an alliance with your house, O Partha. You need only take the maiden and make off with her with all speed. When Yudhishthir's permission arrived, Arjun prepared himself to kidnap the princess. On the day of the festival, Subhadra came out of the city, surrounded by her relatives. All the great personalities of Dwaraka were present. King Ugrasena, Akrura, Gada, Saraba, Babru, Satyaki, Uddhava, and many others, and they resembled an assembly of the gods. The Gandharvas also appeared, and they played sweet celestial music as Apsaras danced. Dwaraka's citizens came out on their golden chariots and on the backs of great elephants. Above them hovered the aerial cars of the Siddhas and Charanas, uttering auspicious Vedic hymns in praise of Krishna and Balaram, who shone in the midst of the assembly like the sun and the moon. From the sky, the gods showered celestial flowers and played their heavenly instruments. As evening approached, Arjun came unnoticed out of the city. He had changed his dress and put on armor. His year of exile was over, and he had cut his hair and resumed his normal appearance. Krishna met him and gave him a chariot drawn by Shaibya and Sugriva. These are the horses of Krishna's chariot, two of Krishna's celestial steeds. As the Yadus sported and enjoyed themselves in the fragrant woodlands on the Raivataka, Arjun mounted his chariot. Then he saw Subhadra surrounded by her friends and maidservants, standing near a temple of Vishnu. Without delay, Arjun spurred the horses and rushed toward the princess. Subhadra looked up in surprise as she heard the clatter of the fast approaching chariot. Holding the reins was Arjun, with a great bow slung on his back and a sword hanging from his belt. Subhadra's heart leaped. The prince was heading straight for her. In less than a minute, he had taken hold of her hand and pulled her onto the chariot. Before anyone could react, he raced away to the north, back to Indraprastha. As they realized what had happened, the Yadus became incensed. How dare anyone kidnap their princess before their eyes? Who could have been so bold? Some of them said it was Arjun from Indraprastha. The Yadu warriors ran about in all directions, trying to find their weapons and chariots. In Dwaraka, the chief officer of the court stood in the central square of the city and blew his golden trumpet. It was a call to arms. A council of war was hastily assembled in the Yadu court. As the ministers and generals quickly took their places in the Sudharma assembly hall, Balaram spoke. His angry voice echoed around the hall. Why has Arjun insulted us in this way? Did he not consider us worthy of a peaceful approach? He has stolen Subhadra without even speaking to any of us. Surely this means war. Balaram glared around the assembly with eyes reddened with fury. The thousands of Yadu warriors present rose like so many fires blazing up when fed with oil. Bring my armor, fetch my weapons, yoke my chariot, and I shall give chase to the insolent Pandava. Amidst the uproar, only Krishna remained unmoved, seated upon his beautiful jewel-encrusted throne at the head of the assembly. Seeing this, Balaram again spoke. With his pure white complexion, blue robes, and wildflower garlands, he resembled a white mountain covered with blossoms. His voice again echoed around the hall. Stop! Stop, O senseless men! What are you doing? While Krishna remains silent. Cease your roaring and let us hear what is on his mind before we act. His words are always our surest guide. Balaram looked across at his brother. O Janardhan, Arjun is your friend, but it appears that he has insulted us. By snatching away my sister, he has placed his foot upon my head. O Govinda, How shall I bear it? I will rid the earth of the Kurus by myself today. I will never brook an insult from them. I will never brook an insult from them lightly. The whole assembly erupted again as Balaram spoke, roaring in approval. Krishna only smiled. As the sound died down, he said, I do not feel that Arjun has insulted us. Indeed, my feelings are that he has enhanced our glory. Partha knows that we would not accept payment or gifts for our princess. What man on earth would sell his child to another? Nor would Arjun accept the maiden as a gift, as if she were an animal. I'll read it again. I do not feel that Arjun has insulted us. Indeed, my feelings are that he has enhanced our glory. Partha knows that we would not accept payment or gifts for our princess. Okay. So that means we won't take anything in exchange. By giving the daughter, we will not take anything in return, because that will become like a business deal. We are selling our sister. What man on earth would sell his child to another? So he knows he will not. We won't take any gifts for Subhadra. Nor would Arjun accept the maiden as a gift, and he will also not take her just like that without giving anything, because that would become a charity, right? So he wouldn't take. Nor would Arjun accept the maiden as a gift as if she were an animal. He has therefore selected the method always favored by powerful heroes. The hall remained silent as Krishna continued to speak. He said he considered an alliance with the Pandavas, and especially with Arjun, as proper. Arjun had been born in the noble Bharata race. He was the son of the illustrious Kunti from their own house. Kunti is the sister of their father, Vasudev's sister. So he was the son of the illustrious Kunti from their own house. No man on earth was capable of vanquishing Arjun in battle. He was now proceeding on Krishna's own chariot and would be difficult to check. Subhadra and Arjun were a good match. Better that they send swift messengers to bring him back in peace and arrange for a proper wedding. That would avoid the disgrace of being defeated by Arjun and would enhance the alliance forged by the marriage. After all, there was now no question of Subhadra being accepted by another man, right? Now that she's touched by somebody, how can anyone else marry her? Having concluded his speech, Krishna looked around the assembly. Some of the Yadus voiced doubts, but Krishna answered them all expertly. We saw how Krishna answered all the kings in Draupadi Swayamvar also. So Krishna answered all the questions very expertly. Gradually, the mood changed. The Yadu heroes looked at one another in affirmation of Krishna's words. His points were good. Arjun was the world's greatest warrior, and his dynasty were world emperors. Right? All the ancestors, they were all world emperors. His marriage to Subhadra was the arrangement of providence for the good of the Yadus. They immediately sent messengers after Arjun. He was brought back and received with honor. The city was decked out in flags and festoons, and a great ceremony took place. Arjun accepted Subhadra's hand before the sacred fire with the blessings of the rishis. Then he remained in the city for a few more days. Finally, taking permission from Balarama and Krishna, he returned home. After a year away, Arjun longed to see his brothers again and introduce Subhadra to them. So it is almost 11:40. Let me see. It's a small chapter. Should I read? Chapter 14, Burning the Khāṇḍava forest. The Yadus bestowed vast amounts of wealth on Arjun, and he left Dwaraka accompanied by a long train of chariots and elephants, as well as hundreds of thousands of cows decorated with silk and gold. Subhadra rode with him on a fine golden chariot drawn by tall white steeds. They soon arrived at Indraprastha, and Arjun went straight to Yudhishthir. He clasped his feet and then worshipped him according to the Vedic injunctions. Arjun then worshipped Dhaumya and the other rishis in the royal court. When the ceremonies were complete, his other brothers embraced him with tears in their eyes and asked him to relate to them all his adventures. See, Arjun is coming back after 1 full year, not just after the wedding. He went away for 1 year. After spending time with his brothers, Arjun went to see Draupadi. As he entered her chamber, she turned away from him and said, "Oh Arjun, what brings you here at this time? You should go and be with your new bride. That daughter of the Satvata race must be missing you now." Draupadi was annoyed. Arjun was her favorite among the Pandavas, and she feared he might come to prefer Subhadra. The Pandava repeatedly begged her forgiveness and assured her that his love for her was in no way diminished. Draupadi continued to sulk. A second tie always relaxes the first one, no matter how strong it may have been. Arjun tried to console the beautiful Draupadi, but she remained silent, always looking away from him. Seeing that he could not win over her, he left her chamber and went to Subhadra. He asked her to dress herself as a cowherd girl. He wanted to remind Draupadi that Subhadra was the sister of Krishna, Draupadi's beloved lord. Krishna had begun his life as a cowherd boy in a small village. By having Subhadra appear as a cowherd girl, Arjun hoped that Draupadi's natural affection for Krishna would be awakened and directed toward his sister. The Yadu princess was brought into Draupadi's chamber attired in simple red silk. The servant girls who showed her in said, "This maiden has asked if she could become your servant." Subhadra immediately bowed before Draupadi and said, "I am here to do your bidding." Draupadi had never seen Subhadra and did not realize who she was. But seeing her humble demeanor and being reminded of her lord by Subhadra's rustic dress, Draupadi's heart melted. She raised her hands and blessed her, saying, "May you become the wife of a hero and the mother of a hero. May you be without a rival." Subhadra replied, "May it be so." She then introduced herself. "I am Subhadra, Krishna's sister." Draupadi smiled and embraced her co-wife. Her jealousy and anger were dissipated by Subhadra's gentleness. She asked Subhadra to tell her everything about Dwaraka and Krishna. They spoke together for hours. Then Draupadi took Subhadra by the hand and led her to meet Kunti. The two Pandava queens soon became close friends and would spend much time together discussing the activities of Krishna and his associates. A few days after Arjun's return, Krishna and Balaram came to Indraprastha. Accompanied by his sons and ministers and riding at the head of a great army, Krishna entered the Pandavas' city, where he was greeted at the gates by Nakul and Sahadev. As they proceeded in state down the main highway, thousands of citizens stood along the roadside. They cheered and worshipped Krishna and his elder brother as they moved slowly toward Yudhishthir's palace. The Yadus gazed around them at the city. The roads were immaculately swept and sprinkled with perfumed water. Fences draped with bright garlands ran down the sides of the wide avenues. On the tops of tall white mansions flew countless flags and standards. The sweet scent of burning aloes filled the air, and the sound of musical instruments could be heard. Krishna and Balaram entered the Pandavas' palace and went before Yudhishthir and his brothers. Yudhishthir worshipped Balaram with all due ceremony and embraced Krishna with affection. Krishna offered his respects and worship to Yudhishthir and Bhima, then took his seat in the assembly hall. Many important personalities from Dwaraka also took their places in the hall, including Akrura, Uddhava, Satyaki, Kritavarma, Sarana, and Krishna's sons Pradyumna, Samba, and Aniruddha. Krishna then gave Arjun all the bridal gifts for Subhadra that her relatives in Dwaraka had sent. He gave heaps of gold bricks and precious gems to Yudhishthir. Krishna also presented the king with 1,000 chariots adorned with rows of golden bells each of them yoked to 4 steeds, driven by well-trained charioteers, 10,000 milk-bearing cows, 1,000 moon-like white horses with golden harnesses, and 1,000 white mules with black manes, which could run at the speed of the wind. As well as this, Balaram gave Arjun as a wedding gift 1,000 elephants, each resembling a hill, and decked with golden ornaments and bells. Innumerable other items were offered to the Pandavas, being brought before them by Krishna's servants. Placed outside the hall, the wealth given by the Yadavas looked like a sea stretching in all directions. That means there's no end. You cannot see the end, right? It's like a sea. Yudhishthir graciously accepted the gifts and then arranged for all the Yadavas to be accommodated in his palace. They and the Pandavas passed many days together in happiness. And when it came time for them to leave, the Pandavas in turn presented them with brilliant gems as gifts. With Balarama at their head, the Yadavas headed back to Dwaraka. But Krishna decided to remain behind to spend some time alone with Arjun. One day, Arjun suggested, "O Krishna, the days are hot. Let us go for some time to the banks of the Yamuna. We have constructed many fine pleasure houses there." Krishna agreed to his proposal and they set off. They soon arrived at a charming spot amid groves of tall trees. High white mansions stood along the river banks, looking like a city of the gods. Krishna and Arjun entered one of the houses where they were served varieties of exquisite flavored food and drinks. They lay down upon golden couches spread with silk covers. After relaxing for some time, they decided to go for a walk in the woods. The two heroes wandered along the river bank, discussing martial arts and past battles they had each fought. Having walked for a distance, they sat down upon an ivory bench that had been placed near the edge of a dense forest. As they continued to talk, a Brahman suddenly emerged from the woods. They looked at him in surprise. He resembled an old sal tree with a complexion like molten gold. His beard and hair were bright yellow. Have you ever seen anyone with bright yellow hair and beard? So this Brahman had his beard and hair bright yellow, and he shone like the morning sun. His two eyes were like lotus leaves, and his body was well formed and powerful. As the Brahman approached them, blazing like fire, Krishna and Arjun stood up and awaited his order. In a resonant voice, the Brahman said, "I know you two to be the foremost of all men. I myself am a voracious Brahman who eats much. I have therefore approached you in order to beg my food and to be gratified by you." Both Krishna and Arjun folded their palms and asked the Brahman what food he would like. The Brahman replied, "I do not eat ordinary food. Know me to be Agni, the fire god. Give me food that suits me. Please help me to devour this Khāṇḍava forest." He indicated the jungle by which they were standing. Although he had already made many attempts to consume the forest, his efforts had been repeatedly thwarted by Indra. This was because Indra's friend, the Naga Takshaka, lived in the forest. Whenever Agni blazed up and began to cover the forest, Indra would send torrents of rain to stop him. The fire god continued, "Both of you are experts in arms. By your prowess, you will be able to prevent Indra from stopping me. Thus I shall consume this great forest. O heroes, this is the food I desire to have from you." Krishna and Arjun looked at each other in surprise. They assured Agni that they would do everything in their power to help him, but they were curious as to why he wanted to consume this particular forest. The deity explained that the Khāṇḍava forest contained numerous varieties of medicinal herbs. He needed the herbs because he was suffering a malady due to having eaten excessive amounts of ghee. There had been a great sacrifice performed by a king named Svetaki in which so much ghee was offered into the fire that Agni became ill. Brahma then told him that he could be cured if he ate the herbs in the Khāṇḍava forest. When Agni failed in his attempts to consume the forest, Brahma told him that he could succeed if he could gain the assistance of Krishna and Arjuna. Brahma had said in a previous incarnation, these two men were in fact the ancient and infallible deities Nara and Narayan. They have appeared on the earth to accomplish the celestial's purpose. Therefore, ask for their help. Agni concluded, I now depend upon you too. I must eat this forest. Brahma has also informed me that the living beings within the forest are sinful and should be destroyed. Therefore, do not harbor any doubts. This act is sanctioned by authority. Arjun replied, I possess many celestial weapons, but I have no bow capable of bearing their power. If I am to achieve the task you have set, I will require an inexhaustible quiver of arrows and a chariot drawn by celestial steeds. If you can provide all this, then we will surely accomplish your desire. Agni meditated upon Varuna, god of the nether worlds, and the deity immediately appeared and said, What shall I do for you? Agni knew that Varuna kept many celestial weapons in the depths of the ocean. Therefore, he asked him to present Arjun with the celestial bow Gandiva, as well as two inexhaustible quivers of arrows. Agni also asked that Varuna bring forth a chariot belonging to Soma, the moon god. Varuna agreed and caused all those things to appear at that spot. Arjun looked with wonder at the Gandiva bow. It appeared like a rainbow embedded with celestial gems. As tall as a man, it was flawless. The Pandava took up the shining bow and forcefully twanged its string. A sound like the crash of thunder resounded throughout the forest, terrifying all the creatures. Holding the bow, the joyful Arjun next approached the huge golden chariot. It was filled with varieties of celestial weapons, as well as the two inexhaustible quivers Arjun had requested. The chariot was yoked with golden harnesses to silvery steeds from the land of the Gandharvas. These horses were capable of going anywhere within all the worlds and could move with the speed of the wind or the mind. Above the chariot flew a banner bearing an image of Hanuman, Ram's great monkey servant. Hanuman seemed to be burning everything that fell within his gaze. Other flags flew on the chariot bearing images of fierce beasts. All the creatures roared terribly from their standards. So they were actually personalities on those flags. Arjun circumambulated the chariot and then mounted it like a virtuous man ascending to heaven. He put on the suit of celestial armor that lay there. As he stood with the Gandiva in his hand, he resembled the sun shining from behind an evening cloud. As he stood with the Gandiva in his hand, he resembled the sun shining from behind an evening cloud. What is the evening cloud here? His armor? He's like the sun and the armor is like the cloud. When he then drove the chariot around, smiling as he heard the loud rumble of its wheels. Varuna also gave Krishna a club called Kaumodaki, which roared loudly when wheeled about and which could crush even Daityas and Danavas. Krishna then mounted Arjun's chariot, saying that he would become the driver. Arjuna again addressed Agni, O fire god, we are now ready to satisfy your request. Armed with the Gandiva and assisted by Krishna, I am able to withstand the entire host of gods united with the Asuras. What then to speak of Indra? Therefore blaze up as much as you like and surround this forest. Agni immediately expanded himself around the forest and began to consume it with his 7 kinds of flames. He assumed the fearful appearance he assumes at the end of an eon, which he uses to destroy all things. Krishna then began to drive the chariot around the forest. While Agni was burning, Krishna was going around, circling the forest. It moved with such speed that it appeared to be continuously present on every side of the forest. Whenever Arjun saw a creature trying to escape from the conflagration, he immediately shot it down. Being slain in the presence of Krishna, the supreme deity, all the creatures dying in that forest assumed spiritual forms and ascended to the highest regions of transcendence. The roar of the fire could be heard for miles. Red, orange, and blue flames shot high into the sky. The lakes and ponds in the forests were boiled dry, and the rocks melted. No creature was able to escape from the blazing Khāṇḍava forest, and their screams mixed with the crackling of the fire. It blazed up to such an extent that it caused fear even to the celestials, who went in a body to Indra and said anxiously, "O Lord of the immortals, why does Agni burn all creatures below? Has the time come for the world's destruction?" Indra looked himself to see what was happening on the earth. Feeling concern for his friend Takshaka, he set out at once to stop the fire. He sent down torrents of rain which fell in columns as thick as tree trunks. But the rain was turned to steam by the heat of the fire even before it reached the forest below. Indra then became angry and amassed huge clouds over the forest, which doubled the volume of rain. With its flames and smoke rising up, and with lightning and sheets of water falling from the sky, the forest became terrifying. Arjun saw Indra's attempts to put out the fire, and he sent hundreds of thousands of arrows in a tight network over the forest. That net of arrows acted as a vast umbrella and completely checked the falling rain. The Naga king Takshaka was not present in the Khāṇḍava, but both his wife and son were caught in the blaze. They flew swiftly upwards and were seen by Arjun. He instantly fired an arrow which severed the snake lady's head. He then trained another arrow upon Takshaka's son, Ashwasena. Seeing this, Indra raised a violent wind around Arjun, which temporarily deprived him of his senses. Ashwasena escaped and disappeared into the sky. As he regained his senses, Arjun became angry with Indra. He shouted a challenge to the god and covered the sky with his arrows. Indra too became angry with Arjun and released his tremendous thunderbolt weapon. Without delay, Arjun invoked the Vayavya weapon, which dispersed the huge black clouds. That powerful wind weapon completely dispelled the energy of Indra's thunderbolts and lightning flashes. The sky became clear, and a gentle breeze began to blow. Agni blazed up even more, fanned by the breeze and fed with the fat of bodies burning in the forest. He filled the sky with his roars. Indra summoned many other celestials to fight with Arjun. Hosts of powerful, heavenly fighters appeared and began to send their weapons at both him and Krishna. Blazing iron balls, bullets, rocks, and countless arrows shot toward them. Arjun countered all the missiles with his arrows. At the same time, he cut down his assailants, who fell screaming into the fire. Arjun was unconquerable as he stood on the battlefield, releasing his deadly arrows, with Krishna skillfully guiding the chariot. Indra then mounted his celestial elephant Airavata and rushed down upon Arjun and Krishna, shouting, "These two are killed!" He raised his personal weapon, known as the Vajra, and urged on his elephant. Seeing Indra advance, the other principal gods followed him. Yamaraj took up his death-dealing club, Kuvera his mace, and Varuna his noose. The commander of the celestial army, Skanda, raised his Shakti weapon, and Surya came with his brilliant dart. The other gods charged behind Indra with their own weapons raised. The Vishwadevas, Sadhyas, Rudras, Vasus, and Marutas all advanced in a body toward Arjun and Krishna, who stood fearlessly below. Even though they exerted themselves with full force, however, the celestials were unable to overpower Krishna and Arjun. Struck by Arjun's mystical arrows, the gods were forced to retreat. Indra smiled. He was pleased with Arjun, who was after all his son. And he also understood Krishna's position. Indra knew that no one could overcome Krishna or anyone supported by him. Obviously, Krishna desired that Agni consume the forest, and at the same time, he was enhancing the fame and glory of his friend Arjun. Then, desiring to test Arjun's power further, Indra sent down a thick shower of boulders. Arjun quickly reduced the stones to dust with his swift arrows. Indra then tore off the peak of a massive mountain and hurled it at Arjun. Not disturbed in the least, Arjun cut the flying mountain peak into 1,000 pieces, which rained down upon the forest below. The mountain pieces rained down. Indra was gladdened by Arjun's prowess. He ordered the celestials to withdraw, and as he did so, an invisible voice was heard in the sky. O Indra, your friend Takshaka is not in the forest at present, nor will it be possible for you to defeat in battle Arjuna and Krishna. These two are Nara and Narayan, the immortal and invincible rishis. They are worthy of even the gods' worship. Desist from the battle, for the burning of the Khāṇḍava has been ordained by fate. Having heard that voice, which they knew belonged to the universal creator Brahma, the gods retired to their own abodes. For 15 days, Agni continued to consume the forest along with its inhabitants. As the forest was destroyed, hordes of Rakshasas, Danavas, and Nagas rushed out in fear. Arjun cut them down with volleys of arrows. None could even look at him as he stood releasing his searing shafts. Gradually, the forest was reduced to ashes, and Agni was gratified. There was a leader of the Asura race named Maya, who had been dwelling in the Khāṇḍava. Having hid himself underground, he now rushed out of the forest and tried to escape. Agni chased the Asura, and Krishna raised his discus weapon, Sudarshan, ready to kill him. The intelligent Maya ran to Arjun and fell at his feet. O Arjun, I seek your protection. Save me. I supplicate myself before you. Arjun raised his hand and replied, Do not fear. He could not refuse to protect anyone who sought his shelter. He turned toward Krishna and asked him to spare the Asura's life. Krishna lowered his weapon, and Agni also stood back. As the flames in the forest died down, Indra again appeared before Arjun and Krishna. Agni stood next to him as he said, O Partha, O Keshava, you have achieved that which could not be achieved by any celestial. Please ask from me any boon you desire. I am very much pleased. Arjun asked Indra for all his celestial weapons. Acha, so this is Indra speaking. Okay. Agni stood next to him as he said. So Agni is standing next to Indra, and Indra is speaking. Arjun asked Indra for all his celestial weapons. Indra smiled and replied that he would indeed give him the weapons, but not yet. When Shiva would give Arjun his Pashupata weapon, then Indra would bring him to heaven and give him all the fire and wind weapons. That time would come in the future. Krishna then asked that his friendship with Arjun might last forever, and Indra said, It shall be so. Krishna is asking that may my friendship with Arjun last forever. And Indra is saying, so be it. Finally, Agni said, I also wish to give you a boon. Just as I pervade this universe, so by my power will you be able to go anywhere you desire within the universe. The gods then returned to the heavens. As Krishna and Arjun made their way back to their mansion, Maya approached them. He bowed at Arjun's feet and said, O son of Kunti, you have saved me from the angry Krishna and the hungry Agni. Tell me what I can do for you in return. Arjun replied, I cannot take anything from you to repay me. This is my firm principle. I act only out of duty. It was my duty to save you, and therefore you bear no obligation. Go in peace. Maya praised Arjun's virtue, but he insisted upon doing something for the Pandava. I simply wish to please you, O Partha. You need not see it as repayment. Arjun again said that he could not accept anything from Maya. I do not want to frustrate your desire. If you want to please me, then do something for Krishna. That will be more pleasing to me than anything else. Maya turned and looked expectantly at Krishna, who was smiling softly. After reflecting for a moment, he said, "You are the architect of the celestial demons. If you wish to please me, then build a splendid assembly hall for Yudhishthir. The like of this hall should not be found anywhere in the world. It should contain the features of celestial architecture and be impossible for anyone else to emulate." So this is different, right? This is the Maya Sabha. Their assembly hall was built by Vishwakarma, right? Sudharma is in Dwaraka, no? That's not in the press. Okay. The Asura's skills were well known to Krishna. Maya had constructed many wondrous edifices in the higher planets for the Daityas and Danavas. Maya then assented to Krishna's request and accompanied him and Arjun back to Indraprastha, where he was introduced to Yudhishthir. The eldest Pandava marveled as Arjun narrated the story of how the Khāṇḍava forest was burnt. He received Maya with honor and discussed the hall with him. After much thought, Maya drew up a design. He then began to consider where to find the necessary materials for constructing the celestial hall. He told the Pandavas that he needed to go to the Himalayas. "I have left there a large quantity of rough diamonds and other precious stones of every description, including those not found on this earth. I shall go to fetch them." Maya explained that he had formerly been engaged by Vrishaparva, king of the Danavas. Vrishaparva. Vrishaparva's daughter is Devyani. No, Sharmishta, right? Vrishaparva's daughter is Sharmishta. And Shukracharya's daughter is Devyani. Vrishaparva is a Daitya king, Danava king. Okay. So Maya explained that he had formerly been engaged by Vrishaparva, king of the Danavas, to construct sacrificial altars for the Asuras. He had gathered all kinds of celestial materials which he had stored at Vrishaparva's house, high up on the Mainaka mountain. There was also a great club with which Vrishaparva had once withstood the gods in battle. Maya would bring that club equal to 100,000 ordinary clubs, not 1,000, 100,000, and give it to Bhima. He would also fetch from the depths of a lake on Mainaka the large celestial conch shell known as Devadatta for Arjun. If Arjun blew that conch on the battlefield, it would shatter his opponent's hearts. Having gained Yudhishthir's permission, the Asura left quickly for the north. He found all his wealth guarded by Yakshas and Rakshasas, and with their assistance, he brought it back to Indraprastha. After presenting the club to Bhima and the conch shell to Arjun, he commenced work. So we went 5 minutes over time. Thank you all. Hare Krishna. I'll see you.